Okay, let's get started and let's build a rubric. Now on the build a rubric screen, you'll notice that you've got the home button, which takes you back to the start screen. You've got a tutorial that you're watching currently. You've got a identify strands icon, import the strands for weighting, update any changes, and then start weighting. Let's zoom in and have a look at what we've actually got available on the screen. The first column, A, is always a template. So we've got the skills, we've got a row here then for strands, and then we've got our filters as well. What you want to make sure is that you're only ever typing on top of the template and in line with the template. If you type into row 7 for any skills, that will not come up on the rubric, but instead it will be for the strands. I'll show you that in a minute. So with our levels based rubrics, they're slightly different to the percentage ones that you may have seen, but we'll show you how they work. So to edit, you're just clicking on the cell and you're typing into the cell to change what you want to change. And let's import a bit of a rubric so we can see it in action. Now this rubric here I had prepared earlier, so I'm just selecting that rubric, and I can select it because it only has 6 rows and it's formatted in the way that we need to format for our developmental rubrics. We're clicking on A1 and we're right clicking and pasting. And you can see there that it's pasted all of the skills in. On this screen, you need to make sure that the colors are as you want them to be, because that's how they'll appear on the marking tab once it all gets generated. So I like to make sure that insufficient evidence is black and that the text is white. So any sort of formatting that you want to do, make sure you do it on this skills tab. Once you're happy with those skills, you're ready to import the strands, but I'll just make a point here in case this is the first time you've used this software, that you do need to make sure you retain the numbering conventions. This is exceptionally important, not only for the Guttman chart to make sure that that works, but also for the scoring. So the way that the reference numbers work is that you have the skill group and the skill set are numbered down here. So these 3 skill groups are all part of a skill set, and that's numbered number 1. These ones over here are number 2. Now, the numbers you choose are totally up to you, but you do need to follow a logical sequence from there. So whatever you number this item down here, you need to follow the same logic up the column. So I'll show you how that works. You've got 1.1, 1.2. That shows you that it's skill set 1, skill group 1, skill set 1, skill group 2, and so on. Skill group 3, and now we're on to skill set 2, skill group 1. So all of the skills then that are part of skill group 1 get numbered accordingly. So skill set 1, skill group 1, skill point 1, skill point 2, skill point 3, skill point 4, and so on. You'll notice that we've got a bit of an error up here, and we need to fix that. So 1.2.1, 1.2.2, 1.2.3, 1.2.4. The most common error that happens with these rubrics is just with regards to these 3 digits here. You need to make sure that there are 3 digits, that they do have periods or full stops in between them, and they need to have a space between the last number and the start of the skill point. So that sounds a little bit finicky, but it does help you in the long run. Okay, so that's putting these skills in. Once you're happy with the skills in the descriptors, you're ready to start putting the strands in. Now the strands align with the Victorian curriculum, but they can align with any curriculum that has levels-based curriculum. So I'll show you what happens there. We've put in our skills, and we click on Identify Strands. That's going to ask us how many strands does the rubric cover. Now this one, we've already identified that it covers 2 strands. So we type in 2. Now you will know this when you're designing the rubric, how many strands it covers. And you can change this if you make a mistake by just clicking on the icon again. So what is strand number 1? Well, the first strand I know is reading and viewing. And the second strand is writing. This is for English. And it says, okay, great, cut and paste. Now, it's put the strand titles down here in row 7. Now, I need to cut the strand title in line with the column where that strand starts. Now, it seems pretty obvious here because I've color-coded these strands ahead of time. But you just need to be very careful and make sure that the strand title lines up with the first column of the skills that work with that strand. So if you have a look here, all of those skills are associated now with reading and viewing, and now all of these skills are associated with writing. So you just need to make sure that you cut and paste the strand title in line with the column where the strand groups begin. Forget about this "and" at the end, that's fine. Now, this rubric doesn't have any filters. Now, filters you can put in where it takes cut points away. So if we don't have any filters, we just need to delete those filters out. If we don't delete the filters out of the rubric, they will appear on our rubric, and that will make things a little bit difficult later on down the line. But of course, you can come back and update if you make a mistake at any time. Alright, so I think it's time now. We've got our skills in place, we've got our formatting done, we've put our strands in. I think it's now time to import skills and strands and get ready to wait.